This Organized Chaos video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Let's see. Mike, we do have a couple. I think we have an hour request up here. Let me see. Oh, Robert Hamilton wanted me to go over critical drinkers. Oh, God. We were going to go over more cringe. I'm not going to lie. I assumed Matt Walsh would be more cringe than critical drinker. But that was very shallow Matt Walsh. So maybe critical drinker will be more cringe. Let's see.
One of the great
I know he's been killing it with the views recently. Jesus Christ. Why modern movies suck. Why modern movies suck. Okay, so just looking at this, I want to stress, this is a video called Why Modern Movies Suck. And he's using pictures from a TV series. This is Rings of Power. That's not a movie. Why modern movies suck.
Generally I consider Twitter to be nothing more than a festering cesspool of hatred, envy, virtue signalling, and pointless life-sucking arguments between people that never have and probably never will meet each other in the real worlds. But every so often, you stumble across little grains of truth and pearls of wisdom, one of which happened this morning while I was taking a shit in my neighbour's garden. Wait, what? Anyway, this one took the form of a lengthy Twitter thread describing a growing trend amongst major movie studios of intentionally provoking and antagonising fan bases in order to gain attention and deflect criticism from what they've made, a practice known as fan baiting. The OP described it thusly.
I know, let's see, I know we got a couple requests. This is the third request from my initial one. Let's see. I like Patrick H. Willems. Overall, I think he's really good. Oh yeah, no, he doesn't sound drunk. That's obviously just a voice he's doing. It's not even really a drunk voice. Like, he should be slurring it a lot more if he wants to do a drunk voice. He doesn't even really slur it too much. Maybe, like, it seems like he might sometimes slur it, but not really. Let's see, I thought there was another request on here. I'm seeing Patrick H. Willems. Oh, Filmento, Force Awakens. Maybe, yeah. Those are guys I really like. And I like the Captain Midnight one. So, like, part of me feels a little bit bad for just streaming it on here when it's, like, it's a decent video. But I don't know. If they're older, I guess it's not. I don't really care that much. But, yeah. Okay, let's get back to Critical Drinker. Because we haven't quite gone to this cringe yet. Well, I'm sure 40 seconds in, he's going to get to it soon.
Hey. Fan baiting is a form of marketing used by producers, film studios, and actors with the intent of exciting artificial controversy, garnering publicity, and explaining away the negative reviews of a new and often highly anticipated.
How does fan baiting explain away negative reviews? Dr. Thala Siren. Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna look up this Dr. Thala Siren person. Okay, so I'm trying to Google Dr. Thala Siren here, and all I'm getting is the fucking Twitter account. Yeah, this Twitter account, Cultural Critic PhD. Is this a YouTube? Who is this? This is a person with a Twitter account. That's literally all I know about them. And it looks like one of their most popular tweets is the thing about fan baiting. No, I'm not sure how fan baiting, with the intent of exciting... I don't know how that explains away negative reviews. But other than that, this person doesn't exist, and he is source quoting them for this video with over 2 million views. 2 million views, right? Yeah, Jesus Christ. This random Twitter account. Cool, cool. How many followers do they even have? Not even 1,000. Not even 1,000 followers. And, yes, Critical Drinker's going to be source quoting them, I'm assuming, because he agrees with whatever they say. Because, a Twitter account that's not verified, less than 1,000 subscribers, I'm sure, has some inside information.
Anticipated products. It's something a lot of us in the world of film criticism have suspected for some time now, and it neatly explains a lot of the seemingly baffling decisions that drive modern movie production. Ever wondered why studios, directors, and actors make such a point of hyping up the diversity of the film's cast?
Yeah, this is nothing but media. This is gonna be about studios saying don't be racist, isn't it? I wonder. I mean, the whole they hate their own fans thing is usually the argument they like to use whenever, they're actually getting, the fans are hating on for using diversity, and then they throw just the mildest bit at the fans, and then they're like, oh, they hate us all.
Rather than the film itself? Ever wondered why it's become common practice to race and gender swap popular legacy characters?
Yep, here we go. Yes, racing and gender swapping popular legacy characters, which really hasn't happened. Like, popular characters? Not really a whole lot.
Rather than create interesting new ones that are purpose-built? Ever wondered why the release of any major production is almost always accompanied by a storm of shill media articles?
I also noticed that, he's showing all these clips of movies, but what do these movies have to do with what he's talking about at all?
Endlessly prattling on about how important the latest piece of generic corporate trash is for whatever social-political cause happens to be popular right now, and dismissing any dissenting voices as toxic, hateful bigots? Well, wonder no longer, dear viewer, because basically it all comes down to fan baiting. And since it's all been brought into
So fan baiting is, race swapping a character, and then the fans get upset? Is that fan baiting? Listen, if a huge number of fans get triggered over some minor character getting gender or race swapped, that's on them. As long as the person does a good job, I honestly don't care.
Very sharp focus by the controversy swirling around Rings of Power over the past few months, I figured this might be an interesting topic for us to explore together. So strap in, because the drinker's taking you on another installment of Why Modern Movies Suck. It all began in the year of our Lord, 2016, with the release
Ghostbusters 2016, because we have to dip our toes back into that fucking pool. I swear. Okay, if you're ever wondering, there's essentially a trilogy of movies that triggered these guys and created this whole toxic culture, and it's really frustrating. It's Ghostbusters 2016, The Last Jedi, and Captain Marvel. Of those three, I would absolutely argue that Ghostbusters 2016 was the worst. That being said, it's not nearly as bad as they make out. I wouldn't call it good at all, because it's not. But it's not like the worst movie I've ever seen by any means.
Release of the rebooted Ghostbusters movie. Now, you don't need me to tell you that this film was a failure in basically every aspect of its production, from the tedious and derivative plot to the unfunny jokes, hammy performances, and cringe-inducing dance scenes. Paul Feig just wants to dance, you guys! But none of this seemed to matter at the time, because according to the news media, the only thing that anyone cared about was the gender of the four main characters.
Well, I will admit, there was a lot of coverage of that, but a lot of that was true at the time. A lot of the fans were just upset they're getting female Ghostbusters, and some of them were saying, oh, I just want the originals back. And if you want the originals back, I get that, but a lot of people were just upset, oh, what are these women doing as Ghostbusters? There was a lot of that going around back then, and it was obnoxious. Very obnoxious.
They certainly didn't hate the movie because it was poorly written, horribly acted, and shoddily produced by a creative team that either lacked the motivation or the intellectual capacity to understand the source material. Oh no, they just couldn't stand to see 4 women taking a man's place on the big screen. Don't question this any further, it's just pure sexism, take our word for it. And somehow, through some combination of Lovecraftian manipulation and absolute stupidity, the studio even managed to get the movie embroiled in the US presidential election.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
That's right, seeing Ghostbusters 2016 became an actual political act. Because if you didn't support the female Ghostbusters, then clearly you didn't support the female presidential candidate.
Well, I'm sure you didn't support. Well, I would be stretched to say I support Hillary Clinton. I did vote for her. But that's just because I did not want Trump in office. But, that happened anyway. That being said, yeah, of course, studios are going to go ahead and promote their movies in whatever way they think will get the most butts in seats. Absolutely.
Either, and that could only mean you were voting for the Orange Man. Leslie Jones became another big focal point of the media war around this movie. It's no secret that her character Patty didn't exactly endear herself to fans. She was loud, annoying.
So is he just going to talk about Ghostbusters 2016 for this whole goddamn video? Because that's what I need. I need a goddamn Ghostbusters 2016 movie video made in 2022. These guys need to figure out how to move the fuck on from these movies. Like Ghostbusters 2016, Last Jedi, fucking Captain Marvel. I would love these guys to spend a month not mentioning those 3 movies. They'd probably suffocate and fucking die.
Annoying and obnoxious, and Jonesy's overbearing performance didn't exactly help the situation.
Get out of my friend, Ghost!
There were plenty of legit reasons to criticise both the character and the actor, none of which had anything to do with the colour of her skin, but naturally the media chose to focus in on the small minority of racist assholes who did exactly
the small minority of racist assholes who you cultivated into your audience, critical drinker. Well done. Well done.
that. So guess what the narrative became? Racist toxic fans harass black actress.
Well, no, they did harass her on social media. It was obnoxious. That's not good. Don't harass people on social media. Just don't. You can talk to them, you can debate with them, but don't fucking harass them. Don't be a dick.
Any legit criticisms of the character or her performance immediately went out the window, and the only thing people saw was that all-important, emotionally manipulative headline, conveniently forgetting the fact that nobody had a problem with Ernie Hudson's Winston 3 decades earlier. Truly, there was no...
Well, I will go ahead and be the minority, and I will say I actually do have an issue with Ernie Hudson's Winston, and that is that he appears far too late in that movie. That's one of my issues with Ghostbusters, the original, which is a fantastic movie, but Winston pops up way too late, and he's a great character. He should be in there much earlier.
No ploy or gambit, no matter how dirty or desperate, that they wouldn't try to use to sell this movie. But as it turned out, all the
Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and stress this. Studios will do whatever marketing tactic they think might work to sell their movie, because all they're interested in is butts in seats. People keep on doubting me when I say this. These guys just want butts in seats. That's all they fucking want. Period.
Handy tactics in the world couldn't make Ghostbusters a hit, but what it did do was set the fan-baiting ball rolling, and pretty soon this shit became standard practice within the industry. Not just an uncomfortable...
Alex, I like you, but you're wrong. Ernie Hudson, he says Ernie Hudson has a cool sounding voice, but isn't that great? I disagree. I think Ernie Hudson's awesome. You're a great guy, Alex, but I disagree. And no, yeah, he brought up an interesting fact that Winston was originally written for Eddie Murphy. Yes. That's actually part of what happened. So it was actually a much bigger role that was intended for Eddie Murphy. But when he ducked out, they cut down the role, gave a lot of his stuff to the other guys. And then, kept the role, but it was much more abbreviated for Ernie Hudson than originally intended. I would have picked... Okay, so I love Ernie Hudson, but I love Keith David, so he's great.
reality of a hyper-polarized marketplace, but an accepted part of a project's marketing strategy.
Yeah, I love that, Mike. Ghostbusters. Yeah. In 2096, Critical Drinker will do a movie video about how modern cinema sucks, and it will be all about Ghostbusters 2016. Like, these guys cannot get this movie out of their fucking head. This is ridiculous, man. This movie is, 6 years old now. Move the fuck on, guys. We already got, like, the in-universe reboot we wanted with Ghostbusters Afterlife. This movie is just, like, kind of this interesting side note in the Ghostbusters history. We're moving on from it. The whole world's moved on from it. Why are you talking about it in 2022, Critical Drinker? Why?
Strategy. And truly, one of the biggest offenders has got to be Disney. They're practically...
Oh, he's gonna hit Last Jedi, and then he's gonna hit Captain Marvel. He's gonna do the whole trilogy, just like I said. Oh my god, this will be amazing.
Fallen over themselves to antagonize their own fans these days and farm the resulting controversy for everything it's worth. You thought Rose Tico was a badly written character?
Oh my god, I had no idea. Is he gonna cover Captain Marvel after this? Cause oh my god.
Who added nothing to The Last Jedi and actually took away from pre-existing characters like Finn?
How did she take away from Finn? Listen, Finn's storyline with Rose in that movie was probably one of the lesser points, but it does have some good stuff. I love the conversation between Finn and DJ about the war and how the rich guys are kind of sponsoring this goddamn war, and pushing it forward, and they're making money no matter which side they play. I thought that was interesting. I was disappointed they didn't really explore it anymore in this movie or in Rise of Skywalker. I feel like it was kind of set up for Rise of Skywalker. But yeah, that is not the best part of the movie. That being said, saying Rose killed it, what the fuck are you talking about? Rose was another character. Her whole thing, like, it's weird. Like, her sentiment at the end where she tells Finn, we can't win by dying. It's something like that. We have to win by loving. It's something weird like that. And it's like, I like the sentiment. I don't know how well it works in that moment. I do question how well that works in that moment. That being said, overall, I still stand by The Last Jedi as a very good Star Wars movie. I think I rank it as the third best Star Wars movie, and I would still hold to that. It does definitely beat Matt. New Hope would be my number 2, by the way, which, apparently Matt Walsh hates because there's a franchise that started after it and the acting wasn't good. I guess Alec Guinness is really hurting in his grave because he found out Matt Walsh doesn't like his acting. Hey, I think his acting is great, so...
Shut up, you bigot! You're no different from the people who chased Kelly Marie Tran off social media. You thought Captain Marvel was kind of bland and unlikable, with no compelling struggle or conflict, and powers that basically make her an invincible...
And he did it. He went right into Captain Marvel. Oh my god. Oh my god. He's going over the whole trilogy of the movies that trigger these guys. Holy shit. He's doing it. I didn't know he would actually go over these 3. Fuck. I just knew these were the 3 movies that trigger most. So, I'm trying to think, is there one after Captain Marvel that really gets him going? I feel like everything gets him going after Captain Marvel. So, Rings of Power was in the thumbnail. So, probably after this, he'll go Rings of Power. He might hint at She-Hulk a bit. Yeah, I would think the only thing that compares to these 3 for the amount of whinging these guys do would probably be Rings of Power.
God that nobody could challenge? Clearly, you just hate women. You thought the Eternals was a...
Mike, did I read your... probably... It's done this way because studios don't do woke content. Ghost at Star Wars and others are the minority. Yeah, no, I did read that.
A boring, incoherent mess with no idea what it was trying to say or be, made by an inexperienced director that was...
Okay, I will admit, like, I predicted that he would do the classic trilogy of Ghostbusters 2016, which he stayed on for like 4 minutes. And then he did like a minute on Last Jedi and a minute on Captain Marvel. I did not predict Eternals would be the next one, but I guess so. This one did a lot of race and gender swapping. That being said, these are at best C-list characters. Like, okay, so I went into Guardians of the Galaxy, and I knew Guardians of the Galaxy was a story that existed. I knew some of the characters. Excuse me. But when I went into Eternals, I knew even less than that. So, like, when they race and gender swap some of them, I didn't really notice or care. I'll be honest, I didn't. I think the movie's a little bit underrated. I don't think it's great, but I think it's a little underrated.
Completely out of her depth? You need to silence those disgusting thoughts, because this film is literally saving lives. You thought the Mulan remake undermined the original's inspiring...
Oh, I forgot about Mulan. Yeah, they like to go after that Mulan remake. That was really bad. But not for the reasons they said. I've just... If you saw my last debate, we discussed this. The identity politics in the Mulan remake are not what killed it, because it's the exact same identity politics in the animated version. The identity politics in the live-action remake and in the animated original are exactly the same. It's the story and the writing that's much weaker in the live-action remake.
Message about the value of hard work, determination, and resilience in favour of the lazy, meaningless, and potentially harmful platitude that being female makes you automatically...
Alright, Mike, I'm going through some requests. Woke Critic. I might check him out at the end, because that sounds really... I don't know if that's... I don't know if he's like woke, if he's criticizing woke culture, or if he's, looking at it from a woke perspective. We'll see.
Brilliant at everything? God, you're such a toxic hater. Damn, man, it's even gotten to the point where they wheel out these excuses and thinly veiled provocations before the product even gets released. Like Tim Miller with Terminator Dark Fate, who proudly proclaimed the androgynous thing... Sorry, old habits die hard. Grace would be an awesome character for
androgynous thing, aka Grace? Grace was fairly feminine from my perspective. I missed when she was supposed to be androgynous. What are you talking about?
Enlightened individuals, but would scare the
Is it just because she has short hair? Is that it? She's fairly feminine, dude.
Crap out of basement-dwelling misogynists. Oh no, Tim, please stop. The implication was as subtle as a purple unicorn with a chainsaw superglued to its forehead. If you didn't like this character, and by extension the film she was in, then clearly you're the problem.
I don't recall that huge of a bet. I remember lots of people disliking Dark Fate. I don't recall any, real sexism. I mean, I'm certain they were there. I don't recall that being a huge, loud scream. But it looks like we're about ready to get to Obi-Wan Kenobi. There was definitely a loud scream over that one. Which, fun fact, Obi-Wan Kenobi was not a fucking movie.
Or how about Moses Ingram from Obi-Wan Kenobi, who
received lots of racist messages and really shouldn't have. And then Disney did a milquetoast message saying racism is bad. And you guys all whinged because you said that they're calling everybody racist when no. They're just saying don't be racist.
Apparently briefed in advance by Lucasfilm that she'd be getting racist hate from toxic fans.
Yes. Because in their history, because this isn't their first go at a Star Wars property, Rose Tico, I can't think of the actress's name, Kelly Marie Tran, she got lots of hate, and they're just letting her know that that's going to happen. Wow. What a surprise. Woman of color gets hate in a Star Wars franchise, and then they notice a pattern of that happening, so they tell the next actress in line, hey, you're going to get hate. That seems like a reasonable thing for them to do.
Almost like they were counting on it happening. I mean, I'm not for a moment suggesting that studios would create
counting on it? Oh, so he's saying that all the fan backlash against her was artificially created. No, there aren't any toxic fans. It was artificially created. Dude, I just look at the hate I get on my channel, and that can get fairly intense. Someone like Moses Ingram, who's got a substantial role in the Star Wars property, which is a huge franchise, I'm sure gets a lot more hate than I do. A lot more.
Sock puppet accounts on social media to false flag harass their own actors and drum up controversy to help defend their shitty products or anything. But wouldn't you know it,
wow. Just, yeah, there aren't actually toxic fans, ignoring the fact that the toxic fans are actually what he cultivates for his fan base. Good job, Drinker. By the way, if there's any of those toxic fans in the chat, I would actually like to talk to you if you want to discuss this. Because there's a lot of you, I think you could use, I think a discussion about these things could be helpful. And, I'm not talking about debate. I'm not talking about, like, I'm going to kick your butt. No, I just want to talk to you like a human being. That's all I want to do. I want to, speak some logic to you. That's all I want to do.
Convenient cherry-picked examples were soon produced out of the tens of thousands of social media interactions she probably...
Oh yeah, no, it's a hell of an accusation. Disney manufactured the hate. Yeah, it's complete bullshit. He's just running cover for the actual racists in his fan base. That is actually what he's doing when he says that.
Gets, thus negating any actual criticism of the character, the writing, or the show at large. How's that Little Mermaid trailer working out for you, Disney? But it's not just Disney that have got...
Well, they've gotten lots of free publicity on that trailer. All they had to do was make a Black Mermaid, and you guys made a fucking billion videos whinging on it.
Into the fan-baiting game. It was the same deal with the new Resident Evil show on Netflix, which turns out to be an absolutely laughable disaster with almost nothing to do with its source material. But what did all the promotion and media articles focus on before its release? The fact that the showrunners took an iconic antagonist known for his blonde swept-back hair and sunglasses and recast him with a black actor.
Okay, so I have not seen that Resident Evil show. I've heard very bad things, but I've also heard Lance Reddick did a fantastic job. And I have seen some of the comments that are explicitly racist who have bashed him for being in that role. And I've heard, like, he was, like, the best part of that series. So, I haven't seen it. I don't know. But I do know Lance Reddick's a good actor. So, if he's the best part of that series, that wouldn't surprise me. And I know there is racism that went against him for it.
The intention was clear. They were trying to bait the fan base into reacting to such a bizarre change, so...
Well, you're so easy to bait. Hey... they're essentially, like, yeah, they're gonna race swap a character and get lots of free publicity from the fucking racist. If you don't, like, whinge every time a character is race or gender swapped, then they won't have a motivation to do that. Maybe then they could just do it honestly. But I don't know. I do think it's good to force this, because lots of times, minorities and women are not getting the roles in equal numbers as they should. They'll represent the population. And they really should be, because there's lots of talent in those communities that should be represented as well. I would like to live in an equal world where nobody freaks out over a race or gender swap, because genuinely, I just want the best person for the role. Genuinely, I do. And there's a very good chance for that Resident Evil show, they didn't have anybody better than Lance Reddick for that role. Because who are you going to get better than Lance Reddick? He's a good damn actor.
They could cry racism and ignore actual criticism of the turd that they'd produced. And let's not bullshit each other here, this kind of guilt by association crap has an impact, not just on public perception, but on professional critics as well. People whose theoretical job it is to assess the strengths and weaknesses of a new piece of media fairly, without bias or undue influence, so they can give the general public a reasonable sense of whether a new project is worth watching. Because really, who wants to be lumped in with all those toxic bigots that dare to criticise a movie for having a diverse cast? Who wants to be ostracised from their peers?
I definitely don't, because that's a pretty shitty thing to do.
Lose that all-important access to premieres and set visits, and tainted with an accusation that they can never quite escape for the rest of their careers. Ever wondered why...
Oh my god, is this him crying because he has over 1 million subs and he doesn't get free access to this stuff? I think this is him crying because he doesn't get free access to this stuff because he's cultivated a toxic fan base. It didn't even occur to me. Like, he probably has. I know lots of times when I apply for stuff like that, which I frequently get, like, there'll be a little, like, in small print, we don't welcome people who are toxic to the fan base. I wonder if he doesn't qualify. I wonder if they look at his stuff and say no. I wonder.
Why critic and audience scores look like they're reviewing completely different movies these days? It's because it's easier to take the safe option.
There's always been a divergence between fan and critic scores. Not always, but like frequently. And when you guys review bomb shit like you did She-Hulk, yeah, you're going to end up with stuff like that. I think the critic score for She-Hulk wasn't around a 70, which I think is fairly honest for She-Hulk. I think on average that show is about 70. Not great by any means, but overall better than it is worse.
and praise the things you're expected to praise, rather than risk voicing your true opinions. I mean, really, do you think Black Panther would have been lavished with such wild, borderline hysterical praise if it had been set in Northern Europe and starring an all-white cast?
No, but that's the thing. We haven't gotten that many black superheroes, especially in the MCU. And what was cool about Black Panther was it was a movie with the hype around it like that. Plus, it also ended up being really fucking good. I'm actually going to be covering the first Black Panther for the podcast next week, so I get to watch that. I haven't seen it for a little bit. I'm looking forward to it.
The sad reality is that controversy creates attention, which brings me at last to what may be the ultimate example of fan baiting.
Oh, here we go. Rings of Power. Fun fact, Rings of Power, not a fucking movie.
The Rings of Power. Right from the start, the atmosphere around this show was pretty contentious. After years of terrible...
Yeah, because you guys were whinging on it so hard just because you had Warrior Galadriel, a Black Hobbit, and a Hispanic elf. Fun fact, Rings of Power. Super white series. Unbelievably white series. And I think it's interesting, when Rings of Power came out, you guys started, the narrative would be House of the Dragon succeeds where Rings of Power fails. Now we've seen both the season ones. Overall, I would have to say I enjoyed House of the Dragon more than Rings of Power, although that was good. But House of the Dragon had way more woke messaging in it than Rings of Power, by a huge margin. I mean, the whole ending was almost about how Rhaenyra, being a woman... And I think they even brought up a few times how she's a woman, and she's looking at it as being like a fair, she's trying to figure out a peaceful way to deal with essentially an insurrection. We don't get anything like that in Rings of Power. At all. But all of a sudden, House of the Dragon isn't woke, but Rings of Power is? You guys need to fucking work on your narratives. It makes no goddamn sense.
Reboots, remakes, and modern reinterpretations of classic franchises.
Yeah, Critical Drinker, Rings of Power, let's milk it. Yep, that's what he's doing.
Nobody was particularly optimistic about Amazon buying up the rights to one of the most beloved fantasy stories of all time.
I wasn't optimistic about it either. Like I said, it's a slow burn. The first episode in particular is not great. It's a slow burn, but it picks up, and I really like the ending.
Would they stay true to the lore or change it to suit their needs? Would they honour the spirit of Tolkien's work or twist it and remake it to reflect the world we live in today?
Because all art reflects the world we live in today, Critical Drinker. That is a fact of life. Even these people who so-called do art that doesn't reflect the world today, does. By not reflecting the world today, you are still reflecting the world today, just from a different angle. I saw this great tweet earlier, and it was, I think it was from actual fandom, and it was the meme where the guy's pressing the button, and he stretched out and pressed both buttons, and it was, make a non-political comic book, and then make an anti-woke comic book, and of course it was Eric July in the Rippaverse. And I know somebody asked me earlier about the Rippaverse. I have not read it. I don't know. I find the whole stuff with Eric July a little sus. I hope he's getting all the orders out. That's like the worst I can say about it. I will say, I actually have a copy of Isom cover number 1. One of my friends actually tracked it down. It's like a friend of a friend of a friend ordered it. And one of my friends tracked it down, and he's going to give it to me to cover on the stream. So that'll probably be coming up in a couple days. Maybe it will be awesome. Maybe he will make me rethink this whole thing. I mean, I'll never be anti-woke, but maybe I'll be like, hey, actually, Isom was decent. I don't think so. What I've seen, it looks bad. But yes. Let's get back to Critical Drinker whinging on Rings of Power for reflecting the world it was created in, despite the fact that all art reflects the world it's created in. That's how fucking art works.
Hey, the answers came soon enough with the first batch of promotional images, which made sure to feature race-swapped elves, dwarves, and hobbits in centre stage.
Oh, I forgot about the dwarf. They really whinged about the dwarf. Actually, like, revisiting some of the Lord of the Rings stuff, like, I remember thinking that female dwarves were supposed to have beards, but, like, revisiting it, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be genuine or a joke. It might have just been a joke. So maybe them not having beards works as well. I don't know. And at the end of the day, I kind of don't care. What we're dealing with here are books that Tolkien never wrote. And I know somebody's going to be like, oh, the Silmarillion. Silmarillion was something written after he died. It was his notes, his kids put together, and it was published after he died. The only books that were written by Tolkien in this universe are the 3 Lord of the Rings books, which I believe was actually initially released as one giant book. And the other one being The Hobbit. Actually, I'm not sure. Was Lord of the Rings released as one giant book, or was it like 6 smaller books? It wasn't released as it currently exists as 3 books. Anybody in the chat want to update me on that? Alex, I do think they could have more smartly handled who in Rings of Power is brown-skinned and isn't, though. Make everyone from the East brown, like in the books. Alex, I actually don't care. I don't care. You could always just, I mean, if you wanted to, maybe you could say, oh, they're from that area, and, you know, their ancestors are from that area and they've mixed. I kind of don't care. As long as they do a good job. I thought people, for the most part, did a good job in Rings of Power. Mike, the reason why this anti-woke comics don't work in Comicsgate is because they act like they are the only independent comic suppliers or not. Yes. Okay, so like if you go back to my Comic Expo footage from probably like a month ago, I actually talked to some independent comic creators, some actual independent comic creators who are awesome. Those are guys that need your support. Like, guys like Eric July and Ethan Van Sciver, they already have support for whatever project they need. And Ethan Van Sciver has even admitted he's never going to be update with all the orders, so you might just give him money and it just disappears. There's lots of independent comic creators that actually need your help. They're probably much better at their craft that you could be supporting. Way better. And they don't, like, sell their stuff through bigotry. Which, you know, hey, that's a nice plus.
That were never part of Tolkien's world, and female political leaders and sorcerers turned into sword-swinging girl-boss soldiers.
Why are they so triggered by Galadriel being a warrior? Why? There is nothing wrong with her being a warrior. There is nothing wrong. I don't care. Cool. She's looking for revenge for her brother, so she became a warrior. Okay, works for me. Let's move on.
They were practically daring the fans to challenge them.
Oh, Nothing But Media. It was written as one book split into 3 by publishing company, then split into 6. Okay, thank you, Nothing But Media. I figured it was something like that. My memory was like going all over the place on how it was.
And when the inevitable...
I should write a comic book. I'm not gonna lie, I've thought about it. I'm a terrible artist, so I'd have to get somebody else to draw it. But yeah, no, I've been tempted. I've always had ideas about comic books since I was a kid. I will say I haven't ruled it out, but I'd have to get an artist. That'd be the biggest thing.
Did, the first batch of hit piece show media articles surfaced. Pretty soon, this one topic became the focal point for the show's entire marketing campaign.
No, not really. They did talk about it, but you guys whinged about it way louder than they ever did. Like, oppressively.
Actors, writers, and producers spent more time trying to defend and justify their casting choices rather than
because you guys won't shut the fuck up about it. Yes.
Talking about the show itself. Sophia Nomvet somehow became the spokesman for the entire cast, banging on endlessly about how playing a dwarf with a different skin colour from other dwarves...
You see, I don't know who became the spokesman for the cast because I didn't watch behind the scenes stuff on it, like these guys apparently did. Fun fact, if a series doesn't look good for you, why are you watching behind the scenes stuff on it? I mean, I'll go ahead and admit, actually behind the scenes stuff doesn't really interest me. Unless I really, like, love it, and then maybe I'll do behind-the-scenes stuff. Yeah, I'll hire Eric July to draw my comic book. Oh my god. Fuck.
we've seen until now is some kind of glass-ceiling shattering event that puts her up there with Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King.
This represents progression. This represents an acknowledgement of where we have been and a will to get to where we need to be in order.
Almost like she was happy to be cast in this show, and she likes her job, and she wants to just, push the message of it forward. What a terrible thing. Gee whiz, Critical Drinker, don't you hate it when people talk about messages?
In order for this to be accessible to everyone.
Fucking calm down, love. You're not saving the world here. The image...
No, but she's excited to be in a series, so she's talking it up. And you know what? Actors like regular work, so hey. Honestly, what do these guys expect? Do they like, I always say this, but I always feel like these guys are expecting the actor to go up and be like, oh yeah, this project fucking sucked. I don't know why I did this movie. This was garbage. This was some bullshit. I don't know why. What do you expect the fucking actor to say? Jesus.
The image they desperately wanted to convey is a band of brave, noble artists under siege by braying hordes of toxic, hateful fans, conveniently ignoring the fact that they're the ones who created the monster they're now fighting. They chose to go against the source material they
I think they've largely been actively trying to be somewhat active with the source material. I know they worked with Tolkien family because they had to compress the timeline. I think this series is going to be covering what was supposed to be over a couple hundred years. But they wanted to have more recurring characters than just the elves, so they compressed it over like 5 or 10 years or something like that. That's probably the biggest thing they're doing to diverge from Tolkien's story. You know, I'm sure they're going to do some mixes. And the thing to keep in mind, these are books he never fucking wrote. These are appendices they're working from. So they definitely have some wiggle room. And they're working with the Tolkien estate on it. So I don't know what else you want them to do.
claim to have such reverence for, knowing that it would piss people off but doing it anyway. They chose to shout those changes from the rooftops, rubbing it in the faces of the actual fan base who they'd already pissed off. They chose to turn their show into some kind of cultural flashpoint in the hopes that it would deflect attention and criticism away from what they'd actually produced.
Everybody wants their show to be a cultural flashpoint. Everybody wants their show to be a big deal. Imagine producing a TV show and wanting it to be a big deal that's talked about by a lot of people. Wouldn't that suck? What argument is this?
Like I've said before in a previous video, diverse casting is without doubt a good thing in principle, given people from...
Okay, cool, Critical Drinker. We agree on that point. So why are you whinging every time anybody does it remotely?
Different backgrounds, cultures, races and genders, a chance to be represented on screen is the fair and right thing for any studio to do. But it doesn't mean it can be done in every single project, regardless of the setting and context, because the reality is that sometimes it just doesn't fit, no matter how hard you try to bend reality around you. If I made a movie about pre-colonial Native Americans and randomly sprinkled some white actors into the tribe with no explanation, then people would have every right to question that creative choice.
Okay, so your argument is for Middle-earth, for the Hobbit roles, they should only hire hobbits. For the elves, they should only hire elves. For, I guess for the humans, you can only hire humans. That's the easy one. For the Ishtar, you can only hire Ishtar, obviously. I mean, you can't have some non-Ishtar playing an Ishtar, come on. For the dwarves, you can only hire dwarves. Is this your argument? It's a fucking fantasy setting, bro.
It wouldn't make them bigoted or racist, it would just make them normal, rational human beings who know that what I'm showing them doesn't match up with reality. And trying to paint them as such would make me seem like a total asshole trying to dodge criticism.
Oh, you are a total asshole. Yes, you are. I agree with that assessment. Yes, Critical Drinker.
It's the same shitty tactics that go all the way back to Ghostbusters 2016, just more advanced and better organised now. But it results in the same depressing outcome. Actual fans get so burned and pissed off with the treatment of their franchise that they go into it with the worst possible outlook, determined to find problems and unwilling to even give it a fair chance. Yeah, it might garner you some short-term sympathy from a general public that doesn't get to see the full picture, and some fake positive reviews from critics scared of being lumped in with the enemies of the state. But in the long term, nothing good comes out of this stuff. With less honest criticism focused on the actual artistic quality of the work, there's less incentive.
Yes. And why is there less honest criticism based on the artistic quality of the film? Because you guys are screaming so hard about minority this or woman that. It makes it hard to do honest criticism when the biggest guys on this fucking platform whinge over fucking the stupidest fucking shit in the world. Can we please actually get to honest criticisms instead of what this fucking video has been over the past bit.
For writers and showrunners to push themselves to produce better.
Oh yeah, nothing but media points out. He complained that Prey was about a woman. I bet he never complained about non-Native Americans playing them in all the films that came out before Prey. Good fucking point. Yes, I would be shocked. Mike, can we watch Critical Drinker explain the point of his channel? We know the point of his channel. The point of his channel is to monetize toxic fans. And to his credit, he actually does it in a moderately entertaining way, which is why, in some ways, he's probably one of the worst guys. He's also worse because of his size. Now, I will say he's better in his rhetoric than a lot of the other people I've gone over, but his size makes him an issue. He is so big, and he rides this anti-woke, he rides the anti-woke dick hard.
Content. It creates a deceptively positive feedback loop where they hear nothing but good things from the professional sources they trust and conveniently dismiss any criticism as invalid and motivated purely by personal bias. And if you want an example...
I missed that. Do you have a source, or are you just gonna say crazy shit? You just gonna say crazy shit and hope nobody double checks it? I need a source for a claim like that, dude.
Of the overall quality of movies and TV shows being adversely affected, well, look at what we've produced over the past 5 or 6 years. It's also pretty shit for the actors, who for the most part are just honest people looking for their big break. They're not likely to turn down career-defining roles, even if it means playing characters that they might not be suited to. But ultimately, they're...
Well, here, chat, I'm kind of wondering, but chat, you can help me out. Past 5 years, good movies. I know there's been some good ones. Nope came out. Nope was really good. Oh yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once was great. Like Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness was good, but I wouldn't put it up that high. Top Gun Maverick was pretty fun. I know these guys love to claim it, even though not really. It was just fun. Past 5 years, and that's just recently. I know past 5 years we've had some really good ones. I mean, these guys would disagree with me. I enjoyed Last Skywalker, or Last Jedi. I enjoyed Last Jedi quite a bit. But there's plenty of good movies that came out in the past 5 years. I know there's a delay on this stream, so I don't know if you guys have gotten to this yet. But yeah, go ahead and tell me some of the movies in the past 5 years that you guys have enjoyed that have been really good, and I will go ahead and go off them when this video ends, which is in about 1 minute, or also Critical Drinker time 10 hours.
Just being used as both weapons and shields by giant studios in a never-ending war against their own fans, and along the way, they're probably going to get exposed to a lot of abuse that they don't deserve. I guess what I'm trying to say with all of this is that the best way you can generate hype for your movie or TV show is to just focus on making the best content that you possibly can, telling the best story with the best writing and performances that everyone involved can deliver. There's plenty of options for working in actors of different genders or ethnic backgrounds, even in a
but yet you whinge every time they do it.
place like Middle-earth, but simply dropping them randomly into cultures and locations that make no sense and offering no explanation beyond "we have to reflect the world we live in today" isn't the way to do it.
Well, fun fact, it's not that they have to reflect the world that they live in today, it's that there's no fucking way around it. All art reflects the world it was made in. Period. There's no way fucking around that. You can't time travel and, have, some guy in the 1860s make a fucking movie. And have, so you can have a movie that reflects the 1860s. You can't do that. You can only make movies that reflect the world today because that's the world we fucking live in, bro.
It. And lastly, trying to dismiss any and all criticism, regardless of the context or intent behind it, as hateful and toxic bigotry is at best disingenuous, and at worst, fucking detrimental to the success of your own products. Whether you love them or hate them, the fans are the people ultimately writing your paychecks, and your success is tied to their appreciation of your work. You can fight them, you can ridicule them, you can provoke them, but the one thing you can't do is ignore them. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Fuck, that was bad. That was so goddamn bad. Yeah, that took a while for me to get through. That was a bitch. Yeah, Critical Drinker is bad. And what I love is the fact that he loves to put little caveats on someone. He's whinging. He is so fucking annoyed that, like, woman warrior, a black hobbit, Latino elf. He is so, like, triggered by these things. And then he's trying to say, but diversity's fine. It just has to know its place. Know its place, bro? Get fucked. No. You know what? You know what my biggest issue with Rings of Power is? They need more diversity. For next season, I want the entire cast recast. I want gay, trans, people of color cast entirely. Entirely. Because fuck this shit. This is obnoxious.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be.
Do you enjoy pain?
Pain don't hurt.